You want me to pour cold water to melt the ice? Background: when I was 16, while working as a bagger in a grocery store, we got a new manager. We will call her Elisa. Elisa had a very, "I'm right, you're wrong" attitude. She didn't care if she was in the wrong, but you better do what she told you until she changed her mind. If you spoke out against her, you would end up on her shit list, and she would do her best to get you fired. Story: generally, the bagger is the lowest position in a store. We collect carts from the lot, put away items, stock, clean, bag, and somehow we are always at fault. Cue Elisa. I had an early shift. Clocked in, started morning duties, and I heard on the loudspeaker, please come up to aisle 6. Frozen aisle. Seafood. Edit. This is an oval-shaped, open-air freezer at the end of the aisle. 6 compartments, about 20 feet long in total. 1 compartment on each end, 2 in between on each side. About 2 feet deep under the aluminum panels with fans facing out from the center. Drainage in the bottom. Freezing air blows out vents onto the merchandise above. Drainage compartments eventually clog with ice over time. I came in and Elisa gives me a smile and asks me to grab a bucket and scrub brush. I was going to pull up the bottom aluminum floor panels at the bottom of the freezer and melt the ice that accumulates around the fans. It should take no longer than 30 minutes, she said. Make sure you use cold water since we don't want the temperature sensors to go off. Anything over 42°F will set them off and corporate would call. I say, let me make sure I have this right. You would like me to fill the bucket with cold water and pour it on the ice in the freezer while the freezer is at 19 degrees Fahrenheit. Stares at me like I'm stupid. I inform her it isn't going to work. The water will freeze and just create amount of ice. I suggest using hot or practically boiling water while watching the temperature. Elisa gives me a firm no and the threat of writing me up if I disobey. The start of MC begins. I've already figured that no matter what I do, I'm likely to be in trouble. To get the water, I had to fill it in the meat department sink. The meat manager asks what I was up to, and I told the story with all the details. Meat manager is scratching his head and he heads over to call Elisa. She confirms and I hear a bit of arguing. Meat manager comes back, gives me a smile and says to do as I was told. He'd back me up, so for the next hour I must have put about 200 gallons of cold water onto the freezer fan. I switched from a 2 gallon bucket to a 5 gallon. I stopped and moved to the next fan each time the compartment was to the brim with ice. I got 4 compartments done before she came to check on me. Instant rage. Elisa went from white to red real quick. It was also the first time I've heard a manager cuss. What the duck is this? How the duck could you screw up something so simple? Said Elisa. I said, I did exactly what you told me to. I took buckets of cold water and poured them on the ice around the fans. Right as she said she was going to write me up, the meat manager came over after hearing her cussing. The meat manager saw the ice-filled compartments and mentioned that I should have used hot water. This sent Elisa over the edge. Up to my office now. You're being written up. The meat manager did what he said to do. He stuck up for me. Meat manager mentioned that he double-checked with her what she wanted me to do and I was complying with her instructions. She went silent for a moment and it was like her head was going to pop off. She just took a deep breath and muttered out, "Fix it," and walked away. The meat manager gave me an extended industrial hose hooked up to the hot water. The water in meat department can get up to 140 degrees F to kill bacteria. The ice was gone in 15 minutes, and since apparently the freezer temperature measured as a whole it never went above 34 degrees Fahrenheit, Elisa avoided me for over a week afterward. I knew I was on her shit list, and for the next 8 months she tried to write me up for the most pitiful reasons. I eventually was given a written warning for leaving 9 minutes early with approval from the front-end manager that was friends with Elisa. At that point, I knew I would get fired for crap eventually, and I quit without my 2 weeks. Meet manager sounds like a good guy. He really stuck up for you there. This is why I like my manager and boss. While we don't always agree, they'll listen when I have thoughts about what they ask me to do. And more often than not, they either realize their moment or point out a flaw in my logic in a conversational way. That's a fun one. Great MC. If I may be so bold. K is Spanish for what? Q is what you are looking for here. Then there is Q, which is a line. Man, I hate the English language sometimes. Revenge is best served cold. Glad you got out of there. Just because you work a minimum wage job does not mean you are worthless and should allow others to abuse you. Leaving that job is a good step in the right direction. But if you can next time try to alert HR about the hostile work environment that boss is creating. BC, you were in a freezer talking about ice and stuff. I kept reading the name as Elsa until the last mention, and I thought it was a typo. Upon scrolling back up, I find my brain is the typo. Baggers always get shafted. I remember one day there were 5 checkers and 3 baggers. Each bagger had a 30 minutes card shift. So of these 5 lanes, really only 2 had baggers. So I'm bagging, finish, move to another checker and start bagging. My manager comes up and says, "Stop moving around. You need to help." So I stand there and bag for 1 checker. As this happens, another line piles up because all checkers are also bagging. An bagger sees the line and tells me, "Do your job. Move around. Don't just stand there." I shit you not, I was told to stand still then move about 5 times in that shift. Like fuck me dude, maybe if you got as many baggers as checkers this would never be an issue. You said you put 200 gallons of water on the freezer fan. Is this an exaggeration or did you mistype? You've had to make like 40 trips with a 5-gallon bucket. Good for you. It can be hard leaving the security of known job. Sounds like she was one of those fail upwards types. As if working retail wasn't bad enough, it seems to be absolutely infested with this type. This is what happens without science being taught in schools. The meat manager knew a MC was coming. What a legend. Tears of joy, tears of joy. All grocery store managers have this weird fucking pride thing going on. Perhaps since they'll never amount to more? Not sure. So she was having you do shit work. Wrongly. So she could get a bigger bonus. Those freezers have defrosters in them. If there is ice built up on them, they are in need of repair. Repair costs are often taken out of any surplus the store generates, which is also where the manager's yearly bonus comes from. Ugh, this is so infuriating. If I was in your shoes, and if I were brave, I'd have nodded my head and done the exact opposite of what she said when she wasn't looking. This actually works when dealing with people like this. I sent this the time when you ask it to be written down, or you will quit on the spot. Then after they make scene, you show it to higher ups, hopefully together with recordings of said scene. This written up shit you guys do over there in US sounds so stupid. I know it's petty, but quitting without the 2 weeks always feels great to those shit workplaces. Leave them high and dry, no regrets. Also, tisk tisk op, she said it shouldn't take 30 minutes and you said you poured water over the fans for the next hour. Shocking effort. P. You quit with no notice. That is cold. I wish people simply wouldn't put up with crappy managers. Treating people with such disrespect simply because you have the power to deprive them of their livelihood should not be tolerated. I would have shot the hot water on the thermostat intentionally. Just go get corporate involved.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.